Mindy Tate, CEO of Franklin Tomorrow, and welcome to our July 15th Frank Talks, City Hall on Wheels. Glad to see many of you here. I'm going to start by asking you, how many of you live in Franklin or Williamson County and have not voted yet? And you know there's an election on August 1st. You can vote here at Columbia State today. You can get that and check that off your list when you leave here. Go down to the first floor and go across to the courtyard to the Charles M. Sargent building. And Williamson County Election Commission is set up there for you to vote today. You can vote at any of the voting locations in Williamson County. A lot of the rec centers have those. And then, of course, the Election Commission office on Downs Boulevard. Early voting continues through July 27th and also on Saturdays through July 27th. We just encourage you to go and vote for the candidates of your choice. Franklin Tomorrow's mission is to engage the community, foster collaboration, and advocate for a shared vision for the future of Franklin. And we're not telling you who to vote for, we're encouraging you to vote. Last week we worked with Williamson Inc., the Williamson County Association of Realtors, the Williamson Herald, and the League of Women Voters of Williamson County to host a candidates forum in the 65th District State House race, and you can look that on our website, on our social media pages or on the YouTube and find that, and if you need more information about voting in that race. But there are a number of races on the ballot, very important, and Election Day, again, is August 1st. But you can vote here today or any other day between now and July 27th, except Sundays, of course. I don't have the clicker either. Man, I am so unprepared today. I don't even have the clicker. That is complete being unprepared there. Thank you to Atmos Energy, who's one of our sustaining partners. Christina Christensen is here this morning. We appreciate her being here. And Atmos is a great community partner, and we appreciate their support. We also have Williamson Health with us this morning. And last month, they celebrated the opening of the new Boyer Bryan West Tower with its Elevating Excellence Community Celebration. It was a lot of fun. It was hot out there, but we had a good time. But Greg Broer is going to tell us a little bit more about that.
Thank you, Mindy. On behalf of the 2,200 members of Williamson Health, good morning. Our mission at Williamson Health is to meet the healthcare needs of our community. And we had a momentous celebration recently, and we wanted to share that with our friends and neighbors. So here's a little video. Look back at the opening of our Boyer Bryan West Tower.
You've heard the phrase elevating excellence, and I can't think of two better words to describe what we've done here at Williamson Health.
This is so nice.
This day and everything that's happened is probably the absolute biggest honor that, well, besides having my children, and I had them both here, it means so much to my family, and this is our home. This is our home hospital.
This project is for all of our friends, family members, and neighbors. We added 3 new floors on top of what was the original West Tower, plus a new north wing of the West Tower that encompasses all 6 floors, for a total of nearly 175,000 new square feet, taking us from 203 beds to 337 beds.
These new rooms, like all of the new rooms in the hospital, are brand new, they're large, they're spacious, they're modern, they're technologically equipped in a way that we've never been able to do before.
We have gained much needed space, such as an expanded waiting room, additional treatment rooms, and dedicated spaces for family consultations.
Childbirth is a beautiful experience, but the unknowns can also be scary.
You want your labor and postpartum rooms to be as calming and as accommodating as possible, and that's exactly what we've created here at Williamson Medical Center.
I'm going to tell you, this is what we really needed to boost ourselves. We love to give quality care, and this is an opportunity for us to have a place to provide that, elevate our care to a higher level of excellence.
I personally have delivered 2 babies here at Williamson as well, and I've also utilized the emergency department for my kids. So I know how valuable it is to have a facility like this that provides outstanding care minutes from my house.
Probably heard our motto around here lately is more for you close to home. Our mission really is to treat the people of Williamson County here so they don't have to go to Nashville or elsewhere.
Caroline and I are just honored to be a part of this. We're honored to have developed even more friendships. Caroline has really worked a lot on this, and she's worked with some amazing people.
Thank you so much. And I hope you'll go and maybe take a tour if it's available. I hope you don't have to be a patient to see it, but we do hope that you will appreciate that they're a great community partner for us and many other organizations in Williamson County. Renaissance Bank. Oh, wait. I messed that up. It's me. Tony, you got anything to say? Okay. Tony Sharp, Tina Anderson, Bridget. Diane has something to say, though. Okay.
Good morning. Thanks, everyone, for being here. I love the crowd. We are excited to be a partner with Franklin Tomorrow and Frank Talks. This morning, we want to introduce you to our CEO, Mitch Waycaster. He's out of Tupelo, Mississippi, and we're going to learn a little bit about why community and relationships are from the core of Renaissance Bank. Thank you.
Think about my history. I think about my history with the company. I have to go back some 43 years ago now. I was 20 years old. I was in my 3rd year in college, found myself changing my major. My mother actually suggested that I visit a relative at the bank, and it was our bank, the People's Bank, which is now Renaissance, for a part-time job, really over Christmas break. That part-time job was not available, but a full-time job was available in account services. So in January of 1979, I began my career with our company while completing my college education. Matter of fact, it took me some 2.5 years working and going to school to finish my education. But what I found at the company was a work family where I felt alignment with the vision, the mission, and the core values. And those are the same vision, mission, and core values that we know today. And I think that's what's unique about our company. That's foundational in our company. But I felt valued. I felt empowered as I grew within the company. I committed myself to be a learner, to embrace growth and adapt to change. Really, the pride that I had for the bank when I joined the company, that only continued to grow as I actually was an employee at the company. And I mentioned I started in account services, and my job was simply filing checks and answering the phone and speaking with tellers, giving out balances, and actually holding the amount of money that someone would be withdrawing from the teller at that point. So we didn't enjoy the technology that we have today. Things were quite different. So those many things that I had witnessed as a young person growing up in the community and through my family's experiences, those things only grew. I had many advocates, I had many mentors along the way who invested in me and provided me opportunities to learn and grow. It was up to me, and it was my responsibility to demonstrate a strong work ethic, a selfless attitude, to be a team player, a commitment to learning, being present and engaged because I was new to banking, open to feedback and being coachable, a commitment to excellence, which I really saw within our company as I do today, commitment to grow as a leader. And I learned that early, and I saw that in so many leaders of this company where there was a commitment first internally to serve our fellow employees, then to serve our clients and our community, which our company has always had the opinion that community development precedes economic development. We're committed to that, and I saw that as a young person in our company and quickly became a part of that story. And all of these things create opportunity for the company and in turn for each individual, and certainly that was the case for me.
Love to do this in front of a crowd, though she's probably going to be mad at me because I am. But today is Emily Grayson, our Operations and Programs Administrator's beginning of her 4th year of employment with Franklin Tomorrow. And we have had a number of great employees in our almost 25-year history. Emily has added a lot as we've continued to look at technology and in creativity in terms of those two things. And so it just coincided with being able to tell you all that today and thank Emily, who is a Franklin native. And so we are capitalizing on that as well. So we just wanted to recognize her in front of this group and say thank you for all you do every day. We appreciate you. Thank you. So, and one of the things she's been doing is helping us develop great graphics for this upcoming Vision City Conference that we're doing October 15th through 17th here in Franklin in collaboration with Seaside Institute. Normally, we take a trip, invite a group to go with us of about 50 people and visit a city that's growing as Franklin is rapidly, but handling it in a financially sound, similarly sized area. We've been to Carmel, Indiana. We've been to Greenville, South Carolina. We've been to a place called Serenbe, Georgia, which is southwest of Atlanta, and is a conservation-style development. Some might call it an agri-hood, which you're going to see in Franklin in a year or so, a couple years. And we've also, last year, went to Huntsville, Alabama. We've always wanted to hold a conference here. We believe that Franklin is a visionary city. When I call these organizations and people in other cities and say, I'm from Franklin, Tennessee, and we'd like to bring a group to your community to learn what y'all are doing to handle the growth, they're like, well, you're from Franklin, okay? You're handling it. You're doing well. So it's exciting to think that we will be hosting this in collaboration with Seaside Institute, which came to Franklin 20 years ago to study West Haven as a case study on traditional neighborhood development and mixed-use development. So this is an opportunity for them to come back 20 years later, take a little look at that, take a closer look around in our community, and we're working with them on speakers and programs. The dates again are October 15th through 17th. We believe that we'll have about 150 to 200 registrants. We've had interest from South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, all across Florida and Tennessee, Georgia as well. We'll be using the downtown campus concept, so maybe park your car for the day, and then you'll be able to hop on transportation and go to other sites if needed. We'll be at both the Franklin Theater, the Harpeth Hotel, and the Factory at Franklin over that 3-day period. We are so excited to partner with Seaside, which really has 3 tenets: sustainability, connectivity, and adaptability. We are excited to learn more about that and bring them to Franklin, back to Franklin. And our topics will be things like why Franklin matters, because our theme is how history impacts the future. Why Franklin matters. Critical development issues, mobile workshops, and how cities are creating quality of life. These are some of the speakers that we know at this point. That Tuesday morning, if you're an attendee, on that Wednesday morning, you'll join us for breakfast with the mayors, with Mayor Knox White from Greenville, South Carolina, former Mayor Jim Brainerd of Carmel, Indiana, and hopefully the mayor from Huntsville, Alabama as well. So we're excited about that. We are looking for registrants for this conference. We have a day rate as well as a 3-day rate. And we couldn't do this without our partners, and those include joining us as presenting partners, Reagan Smith, Atmos Energy, City of Franklin. Emily, I did it again. I forgot the 4th. TVA. Sorry, Teresa, my goodness. Oh. Tennessee Valley Authority. So I'm bad on that one. I'm bad with that one. So sorry about that. Don't tell anybody. And we're also have some great support from Boyle Investment and the TMA Group and others as we prepare for this conference, October 15th through 17th. You'll be seeing more about it, and we'll encourage you to participate, even if it's for a day. And here's a QR code if you want to scan it, or we've got some flyers on the table out there if you are interested. So one of the things that sometimes I have to explain to people about Franklin Tomorrow, especially when I call them for a Vision City visit, I have to say, we are not the city of Franklin. We work closely with the city of Franklin because our middle effort is to collaborate and create a shared vision for the future of Franklin. And by collaborating with the city of Franklin, we're helping citizens become more engaged and informed about the plans on the table and what's ahead. But today, I'm going to introduce Eric Stuckey because we're going to talk about Franklin's approach to growth, and that would really be important to many of you, and so we're here today to talk about that. Thanks.
The slow clap, thank you. I wasn't sure if I was on yet or not, honestly.
Yeah, come on, woo.
Thank you for that warm welcome. I do want to thank Franklin Tomorrow. I want to thank all of you for taking time out of your day to be with us. Engagement of the community and the work that we do is inextricably linked. Connection with our community and thinking about who we are and who we want to be is critically important. We're going to talk about growth today. Growth has been an area of concern, dialogue, discussion in our community as long as I've been here, and I'm in my 16th year, and I know it goes farther back than that. And that's important because it's shaping who we are and who we're becoming. I will say, though, in the last 6 months to a year, the angst level around growth, at least in my view, has heightened. And so it's been on people's minds, and it's been a worry. And as we talked about doing City on Wheels, we said, how can we provide some more insight about what we do and how we do it? I don't know if it'll relieve angst, but it might give you a sense of the professionals that work hard on this every day, the type of planning the community does, and the work that we do to align it. Let me ask you a question. Do you think we're growing faster, slower, or the same compared to what it's been the last 35 to 40 years? Raise your hand if you think it's faster. Raise your hand if you think it's slower. Raise your hand if you think it's the same. All right, well, if you're at a BOMA meeting last Tuesday, you saw that for the last 35 to 40 years, it's been pretty much the exact same pace. We've been right on about 20,000 to 22,000 a decade since between 80 and 90. So in that decade, in that decennial census. So I think that is a perception that people were like, no, it's definitely faster. It's actually the exact same raw number pace. Of course, if you do that as a percentage, it's declining. So those of you who's slower, you could technically be right. So, but it's still, I don't say that to diminish it. I just say that to put it in context. Now, I think it's absolutely true that the regional growth has ramped up. I don't think there's any question about that. But I think Franklin and Franklin's approach has been pretty consistent to look at how we align long-term planning, how we align infrastructure delivery, and how we think about land use plan and the link to infrastructure that needs to exist. And so that's what we want to focus on today, is that we recognize that growth in some ways is an automatic part of our reality. There is change, but we want to show you what is done to help shape it, help direct it, and ultimately work in such a way that we make the most of what growth provides us as opportunities while preserving the character of Franklin. That is the goal. That's what we work towards, a managed, consistent, high-quality growth and development. In fact, the board has been working on strategic planning work. They'll do some work tonight. And the vision statement they drafted is 10 words. And it says, Franklin, America's finest hometown, driven by excellence, balancing preservation and progress. America's finest hometown, driven by excellence, balancing preservation and progress. We really believe that reflects the best of what Franklin has been and developed in the years that have led up to now, but also what can and should shape us for years to come. So today I want to give you really an inside look on what happens, what's behind the scenes that helps create that alignment, helps address issues, helps make sure we're moving in the right direction, and how we as a team manage growth. I want to take a quick moment. We're going to introduce our team in just a second, but we have some aldermen with us. Mayor Moore's here. We also have Alderman Blanton, Alderman Peterson with us as well. So I want to thank them for their leadership. And as I said, you heard some of the work they're doing on strategic planning that we'll be doing through the balance of this month very intentionally about talking about where we are and where we want to be or need to be in time to come. And I guess those lights were to tell me to speed it up. We'll start with a little snippet of a video. We had a discussion around growth and have, as we've said, for many years. But when we were doing our State of the City a few years ago, we talked a little bit about this very topic. And Margaret Martin, a former alderman, lifelong Franklin resident, roots that go back pretty darn close to the founding of this community, gave some interesting insight of how she sees growth. So let's hear from Margaret.
Well, if you're either growing or you're regressing, and I think we don't want to regress. We don't want to go backwards. And when people say, we don't want Franklin to change, listen to who those people are. Most of them have come within the last 10 to 15 years or fewer years than that. And they think Franklin's always been this way. Well, it hasn't. I can remember the chicken factory downtown, the day the bridge fell with all the chickens. We all had fried chicken for supper that night when chickens flew all over the town. You know, that's the kind of thing we were accustomed to. And every time it rained heavily, the Highway 96, Murfreesboro Road flooded. You couldn't get across the bridge until the water went down. So Franklin has not always been what it is today, but it's very difficult for people who have just come in the last few years to realize that.
So let me bring our team up that's going to talk through some real specifics and give you some insider look on what we work with and how we work with growth and development. Come on up, team. We're going to talk about really in the analogy of building a building from the foundation up and how that can parallel what we do as a community in managing growth effectively. The four experts that we brought up here to talk to you today are part of that team that work in development services. Vernon Girth is with us. Vernon is the Assistant City Administrator. He's been with us nearly 18 years now as our assistant overseeing the development services team. We have with us our Planning and Sustainability Director, Emily Wright. We have the Assistant Director in Planning and Sustainability, Amy Diaz-Barriga. Amy works specifically with a lot of the current development projects. Jimmy Wiseman, who's our Assistant Director in Engineering, also works with a lot of the engineering-related aspects of development. And then finally, Tom Marsh, who is our Director of Building and Neighborhood Services, who provides for the implementation of the International Building Code and making sure folks are following those important safety guidelines. So the team's going to walk through these elements and help you see how we work it from the foundation up to ensure that we're doing development the right way. So take it away, team.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Emily Wright, Director of Planning and Sustainability, as Eric just said. I'm encouraged to see all your faces here this morning to learn more about how we handle growth and development and how we do our best to manage it really on the front end. So what we've kind of done is started with an analogy to a building. And we've really kind of identified the various levels or stages of how we look at growth and development, starting with the foundation, moving up, kind of starting that first floor with building the process and moving forward through the approval process for the City of Franklin. And then really as we get into implementation and execution with the construction of new development. And then lastly, how we revisit our plans and our growth management over time by sustaining and renovating that building. So really starting with the foundation, we kind of want to set the stage essentially before any new growth and development occurs, and make sure that we're really properly planning on the front end for how we grow and evolve and develop over time. So we do that on various levels. We really plan for growth regionally. And one example of this is the Williamson County Growth Plan, which was recently completed. It's moving on to the state now for final approval. But, oh, sorry, guys. There we go. So this is an example of the Williamson County Growth Plan, and what it does is how Franklin came together with all the other municipalities in Williamson County, along with the county really leading that effort to identify the urban growth boundaries for how cities grow geographically and annex within their city limits over time. And it also identifies planned growth areas within the county, and then the rural areas that are to remain as we continue to evolve. Then, just to mention, we also plan for transportation. We do this on a regional level by participating with GNRC's Regional Transportation Plan, Middle Tennessee Connected. That is an integral part of how we not only plan for our transportation major routes locally, but we also really study those connections to the region overall and how we can make sure that we're interacting with each other and providing for our citizens to move to and from amongst the region. Then we plan for growth locally. One way we do this is through our annexation capability study. What this is this is essentially a study of how we can annex property over time and serve it from a city standpoint. So we look at sewer, we look at water, look at transportation, infrastructure, and really the areas of the city that the city can support new growth and development. But also that really helps us because we currently are under a state law where annexation is only allowed when a property owner requests to come into the city, which is a great tool in many ways. But it really helps us to have a plan on the front end too for when we get those requests that we can say, yes, we're able to serve this. We have already planned this out. We know what's needed in order to serve your property adequately. Or no, we're not really ready to annex this property at this time because we still have, significant infrastructure that needs to go in. So this is something we do on the front end to make sure that we're prepared to address those annexation requests. We also do our planning up front for land uses. And so Envision Franklin is our long-range land use plan, helps our decision makers in guiding them through their land use decisions. It really lays out which types of land uses, commercial, different types of residential, mixed-use development, neighborhood commercial nodes, all of these types of land uses. It identifies where they're most appropriate and supported to be developed. And we do this through a really rigorous public process. And we recently updated Envision Franklin through a 5-year comprehensive update. And we just went through that process, and we really appreciate all of you that have been involved in that. It helps us really set the community vision for land uses, and it helps us really support the creation of exceptional places for people as we grow and develop. A couple other things that go into planning for growth locally our Connect Franklin, which is our major thoroughfare plan. So that's how we plan for our transportation routes, new routes, connectivity, improvements to existing routes. We also have our integrated water resources plan, which is a plan that really helps us identify our needs for wastewater as growth and development occur. And we've actually had some recent discussions with the Board of Mayor and Aldermen at work session regarding this topic, so I'm sure you'll continue to hear about that. And then we also have our Parks Master Plan to make sure we're adequately planning for parks as we grow and expand the city limits over time. All of these plans are linked. We don't create them in a silo. So we make sure that we're involved with other departments of the city and that we're making sure that these plans really sync up and create the best possible outcome for the citizens of Franklin. Lastly, really setting that foundation for new development is making sure that we have high quality standards for development that are adopted. So when a development does come in or a redevelopment of a site come in, to the city to be evaluated and reviewed, we can make sure that what we have in place for requirements really ensure that we are creating quality development. So we first have the Franklin zoning ordinance, and zoning impacts our lives in a lot of ways. But specifically, some of the ways that we wanted to mention were public safety and health, community character, land uses and locations, types of housing, property values, parking, light, air, privacy, noise, all of those types of impacts are addressed through our zoning regulations. So these are really important, and we're currently going through a comprehensive update. We've just kicked it off for a 5-year update to our zoning ordinance as well. And then some of the other high-quality standards for development that we have include Franklin Transportation and Street Technical Standards that really identify how we construct our roads and streets in new developments. We also have our Historic District Design Guidelines that ensure that new and infill development in our historic district is appropriate and compatible. And then lastly, and very importantly, we make sure we have up-to-date international building safety codes. I'll turn it over to Tom to talk a little bit about that.
Good morning. Is that better? Okay. With the adoption of the international building codes we do adopt modern, progressive, innovative building codes, and often there's a question about what is the source of the building code. Emily just elaborated very well the local and regional process for adopting those documents. Our building codes are actually internationally adopted. As you'll see on the screen here, the codes are updated every 3 years. For the city of Franklin, by state law, we're required to be adopted a code that's within 7 years for the most recent version. And the other thing I wanted to highlight here is the collaborative process of how those codes are developed. Contractors, government officials, design professionals, engineers are all involved in that 3-year process to bring about the modern, progressive building codes.
All right, well, now let's talk about process of how we review growth. High level, these are sort of the 4 key terms that I think we focus on every day to make sure that our processes are trusted. Collaborative, consistent, transparent, and accessible. When we talk about collaborative, we don't review plans with each other in a silo. We don't look at them and then pass them on to the next person. City staff reviews every application where we meet together and talk about those applications so that we have a very thorough and thought out review and direction to applicants always. In terms of consistency, we publish our timelines for when reviews are due, when applications are due, but also when our reviews are due back to an applicant, so that it's very understood how the process is going to continue to move forward. You're not stuck in la-la land with an application just wondering, when am I going to hear back? Also with consistency, we try not to be open-ended when we review projects. We try to make sure that we're very directive so that it's very clear what to do for that next step and how to get a solution at the end. Transparency, we publish lots of resources in multiple locations. I'm going to show you a couple in just a second. But we want to make sure that everyone is as informed as possible for anything that they need for applications for growth, and what our regulations are for that growth management. And lastly, accessible. We're always an open door here at the city. We're accessible for you to call us, ask questions anytime, and we stand behind our reviews and our decisions. We put our names on staff reports, we put our names on comments so that you have a person that you can go ask a question to if you don't understand something. It's just not the city. So let me walk you through a couple of our tools for process. Here is our application user guide that we publish on our website. It is at our main website, franklintn.gov/application user guide. We made it easy. But what this is that this is a website that shows every application that we have for development. And when you click on that link, it gives you a step-by-step guide of how to go from step one towards approval, so that you understand the process right away. It is a resource to go back to as you go through the process, to have questions answered, to have resources right there. We have our fees here as a link. We have our application portal as a link. We have our schedules as a link. We have our development standards as a link. So it's all there in one location to help it be easy to make it and understandable to get through the process. We also have a development page. Find out about development. This one's pretty easy too. This is franklintn.gov/development. Hey, see the trend there? What do you need? Slash that word. So, but what we have here, it's a little small, I know, but you can see here that you can click on a development map. You click this map, and it pulls up all the applications moving through the process right now. So these aren't ones that have been decided. These are still ones that are being decided, or they're recently decided. So you can go and look at any part of town, click on a dot, and understand what's happening in your part of town. We also have some other things here like the development report, neighborhood meeting links so that you can find those meetings and watch them if you weren't able to watch them. And then lastly over here we have, just so it's a reminder, we have our public meetings on YouTube and Facebook so that you can watch those live, or you can go back to them and watch them if you wanted to follow up on something that you want to learn about that recently happened. Okay. But now for the technical review itself. So that's high level, but like I said, you've heard this word a couple of times now, collaborative. When we review anything, it's not single-handedly. There's so many layers to development that we look at very comprehensively, and this is a kind of a list of them. You know, Emily talked about zoning already and what we look for, why zoning is important, but I'm going to pass it on to Jimmy Wiseman to talk a little bit more about also utilities and infrastructure, how we look at that.
Thanks, Amy. My microphone working. It takes a lot to put a set of construction plans together. I'm honored to work with some of the brightest, most conscientious people at the City of Franklin every day. Check one. Check. How about now? Wasn't loud enough. So, like I said, it takes a lot to put together a really good set of construction plans, and there's a lot of people looking at those. And very early on in the process, we look at traffic, because that's our, as we hear all the time, that's our number one citizen concern. So we get our traffic engineers in a room. We have a third-party consultant that reviews those as well. And we come up with what needs to be done at different intersections or road widening projects that need to be done to support development in the city. And we also have our road impact fee program, which allows us to reimburse developers for making improvements in the city. You probably passed one as you were coming in. That's a developer doing that project on Liberty Pike widening. So that's not a city project. We were able to help fund that project, but that's being done, managed completely by a developer. So with that, we've got $35 million worth of projects that are in the books right now for developers to implement on our roadways, which is a lot. So development builds about 90 to 95% of our city at all times. The CIP tries to do the rest. So we rely heavily on development to help us build out our infrastructure to support the development they're bringing to us. With that, early on in the process as well, we have our water and sewer availability that's required. When that's submitted, we look at our system, our pipe networks, and make sure we have the availability and capacity to support the development. Again, this is very early on, so we can tell developers what they need to know as far as improvements and upsizing and things of that nature. Then we move to our stormwater and sustainability program, which comes from the EPA to the state all the way down to the city, where we're looking at water quality to protect our rivers and streams and also water runoff, whether that's our buffers that are implemented on our rivers and streams or our best management practices for treating stormwater. And then finally, but not least, our public services and our public response to safety and sanitation. So that comes down to a site where it's not just about the building being safe, it's about access to the building, it's about our response in an emergency situation, whatever that may be. Because now everything is GPS-based, so it could be a fire truck that's coming to you, it could be an ambulance, you never know. So we have to make sure we have the resources and availability to allow those vehicles to access the property. With that, I'll pass it on to Tom again.
Okay, we're going to, hopefully, I apologize right now. You may get tired of hearing the word collaborate or collaboration this morning. You're going to hear it a few more times. I think one of the things we want to touch on here is the development process or growth could start at a lot of different places. An applicant can join into the process at different places. The earliest may be, as Emily and Amy talked about, the amendment to the Envision Franklin, a rezoning, a site plan. Somewhere along the way in that process, you'll come to see us for a building permit. And then ultimately what the applicant or the contractor or the property owner is looking for is that certificate of occupancy. As you've probably already gleaned, at any point in that process, you're going to touch any number of City of Franklin departments. And that's one of the things we mentioned up there. And I think Amy mentioned in the departmental review process, our departmental review team encompasses 13 different functional areas and over 30 employees involved in that process. And so we know that it can be confusing and difficult to, someone from the outside trying to navigate through the process. So one of the things that we've done in the Building and Neighborhood Services Department, at each different points in the process, we've identified individuals to help you navigate the process. When you're in the plan review stage, we assign a project administrator at some point along the way. Usually, if you're in a process that requires a site plan, when you get a site plan, there will be a project administrator assigned. If you're already beyond that and you can go straight to a building permit application, plan review, a project administrator is assigned at that point. Your project administrator, permit technician, they obviously don't cover all the ground that needs to be covered with city departments, but they will help you navigate through the process. They don't know the answer, but hopefully they can help you find the people that do know the answer and help you plug into one of those other 13 functional areas to assist you through the process. In the process also, from the Envision Franklin, eventually, that could be multiple days, multiple weeks involved in that. I did want to take the opportunity to mention our one-stop review process. It is involved both in the site plan review process and also in our building permit applications. In the site plan review process, when a large project, a greenfield development usually, gets to the point that they've got site plans just at the point that they're ready to go, shovel ready, ready to start moving dirt. There are last few items that have to be resolved before they can get the stormwater and grading permit. So we have a one-stop review process for that. That's a single day, the first and third Wednesday of each month, that we will focus on getting those site plans approved so that you can talk to the engineering department about getting a stormwater and grading permit. Every Monday and Wednesday, every week, we have building permit one-stop. It's happening right now as we speak for small building permit projects. Some very limited non-residential commercial projects, and just about every single family building project is eligible for one-stop every Monday and Wednesday morning. Plans are submitted the day before or even that morning, and we will get you an answer that day. We do not guarantee approval for a permit, but we will get you an answer that day. I think that I start the next one also. And then once the applicant or contractor starts building, then the Building and Neighborhood Services Department and other departments start inspecting. And actually, the first inspectors that will be on the site are generally stormwater inspectors from the engineering department. But again, as I mentioned, we try to make a person available in our city organization to help you through the process. Once the inspections start, our main point of contact will be a lead inspector. For each building permit project, we assign one inspector who's the primary inspector on that site from the building code perspective. You may see different inspectors for different functional areas, building, plumbing, mechanical, or electrical, but there's one inspector who will primarily go to that site, and it simplifies things for the contractor. There are 8 other inspectors on this project. I don't know who I need to talk to. If you don't know anyone else, call Barrett, who is your building inspector, and he will help you find the people from the other departments you need to speak to. And last thing I think I've got here, just enforcement of the code is for compliance and not aesthetics. Sometimes, especially people see things being built and they would like for it to look another way, or they would like for it to look better or different. We don't inspect for that. We inspect for minimum compliance with the code.
All right. Well, once we've built our building of development services and plan review, we kind of restart the cycle by sustaining and renovating that building. And what we really do is a periodic review and update of our foundational plans. We, just as I mentioned earlier, we've recently done this with the Williamson County Growth Plan, Envision Franklin, and we're going into an effort to update the Franklin zoning ordinance with a comprehensive 5-year review. There are other plans that we do periodic updates as well. We really don't like these to sit on a shelf. They are ever evolving, and they are affected by trends and existing conditions that change over time. And then another thing that we do is, as you've heard, we have a very large departmental review team that we lovingly call the DRT. Sometimes we call it DIRT if we're not feeling it that day. But one of the things we do every so many years that we're available to, we take a peer city visit. And we go to communities to explore where they have new development that's been really successful, where they've had newly adopted codes or regulations or plans that really parallel some of the things that we do here in Franklin. And we take best practices from them and bring them back here. We discuss them with our elected and appointed officials and see what could work here in Franklin. And that's a really good way for us to continue to evolve and look at our plans over time. I'll turn the rest over to Tom to talk about.
One thing we wanted to touch on as we wrap up is, as we've been talking about, the development process and growth. Often what people think about is the greenfield developments, new buildings from the ground up, but that is not the only aspect of development and growth, and certainly not in the city of Franklin. We are fortunate that a lot of people value, obviously, as you know, the existing structures, the existing buildings, and people continue to reinvest in our community. That is part of development. That is part of growth. Often, the Building and Neighborhood Services Department is the initial contact for someone who, hey, I own this building downtown that I want to do something else with. So we're at the initial point of contact, and once again, we're the clearinghouse, facilitation, and collaboration. It can be a simple renovation of an existing storefront that is only building department related. It might be the renovation of a full shopping center, or the conversion of a retail space to an indoor amusement area or an event venue that might involve some type of infrastructure improvement, whether it be traffic, parking, access, even some things might involve stormwater or water and sewer improvements. So BNS might be the initial point of contact, but then we reach out and we'll facilitate coordination with the other departments that need to be involved. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much to this team. You see these people if you watch board, mayor, and alderman meetings or committee meetings presenting on these plans and programs, and they are really learning a lot and bringing a lot to the table. The other thing is they're accessible. So we're not going to do a lot of questions from the floor today, but they're accessible. They're here, and will allow you to have that interaction with them. Eric, now I do want to. They brought a bullpen of people back there, and so maybe come up and introduce your secondary team.
Thank you. I wanted to introduce, I brought a couple of very important folks. Rodney Prince, who is our Assistant Director of Building Services for the department, and then Alex Brown, who is our Assistant Director for Development Services. So please, if you've got questions, feel free to reach out to these guys while they're here or call our office and start with them. And they're the real smart guys in the room from my perspective. Thanks.
We also have Michael Waters Young back there, our budget and strategic innovation.
Chief Budget and Performance Officer for the last 15 minutes.
Chief Budget and Performance Officer, and we are very lucky to have him.
And then you introduced Vernon before, Vernon Girth, Assistant City Administrator. But then there's that guy that looks like he's at the top of the flow chart there. Mayor Ken Moore's here with us this morning. But he's really not at the top. If you think you're starting there is a good place, you might want to start here, is what I would suggest to you a little bit. So thank you so much for being here this morning. I feel like the heat has affected me this morning because I forgot to do something at the start, and I'm just going to bring Nancy Conway up. We always do a little fun question, and we're focused a little bit on balancing preservation with progress today, and Nancy has a question, did you know? So we'll let Nancy ask that question and see who can give us the answer. I don't know. Emily will take care of it because that's what Emily is good about, taking care of it.
Okay. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, city officials and staff members, for this excellent program. And I know that many of you are very proud of the businesses and industry in Franklin that have continued to make Franklin what it is, and also give us this strong economy. So with that in mind, I'm going to focus on the factory building. So here's your quiz question, and Mindy, please look at your audience to see who raises their hands first. What year was the factory built?
Take a guess. 1928. Oh, very close. Very close. Oh.
What did he say?
1930. One said 28, one said 1930, and they were both very close, but not.
You're
on
not
the
supposed to give clues. Okay.
1929.
Who said it? Okay, there you go.
So who had been the three businesses?
Well, actually in 1929, Allen Manufacturing in Nashville built the factory. They came here and had their business at the factory, but they only stayed 1 year. So that was their mistake. But anyway, and then we had Dort Stove Works, Magic Shelf, and the famous Jameson Betty. Okay.
July 15th. Wow, this is such a fun day so far. Okay. So just want to remind you about early voting through July 27th. And if anybody wants to be taken to vote today, we're happy to direct you and get you there today to the probably least crowded poll that exists right now in Williamson County. We also want you to mark your calendars, and I don't have the clicker. Somebody click one ahead there. Go, two, one more. There we go. It's Breakfast with the Mayor's time, July 30th at the Rolling Hills Community Church on Columbia Avenue, July 30th. It will start at 7 a.m. Thank you to our presenting partner, Pinnacle Financial Partners, as well as Atmos Energy and Williamson Health, our sustaining partners. This is a free event. It's a great way to get to see your friends and neighbors in a kind of a larger group but you can RSVP through this code, or you can find that information on our social media and websites or Eventbrite. But thank you for being here this morning. We seriously appreciate that. We hope that we'll see you at Breakfast with the Mayors. Our next Frank Talks, I believe, will be August 15th. Again, we have a conflict on that second Monday, I think it is, so, which is normally when Frank Talks is. But we'll be sending out an email. If you're not on our email list, sign in on the sign-in sheet there so we can make sure and add you to our twice monthly emails that we send out about events and activities going on, or follow us on social media. Thanks. Go out and make it a great day. Stay safe. Drink lots of water. Stay out of the heat if you can. And we appreciate you being here today, and we'll see you soon. Thanks.